In this presentation, I'm going to tell you two stories. I'm going to give you an analogy between the two stories, and I'm going to call you to action. And that action is going to be decisions. It's tough to always do the right thing and make the right decision. The headlights on the Lincoln met as they wrapped around the street pole that ran down the center of the hood. When the police arrived at the scene, they looked in the car, and the victim, he appeared to have been shredded with shotgun fire. They quickly identified him as Easy Eddie. Easy Eddie was Al Capone's attorney. Now, Al Capone was the mob boss of the time. He made his money bootlegging, gambling, prostitution, extortion, and even murder. Easy Eddie was like Teflon to Al Capone. You see, no matter what the authorities threw at Al Capone, with Easy Eddie's legal maneuvering, they couldn't get anything to stick. As a result of this, Al Capone knew that Easy Eddie was an integral part of his business. So he paid him very well with regular bonuses on top of his law fees. He gave him a mansion that took up an entire city block with live-in staff and all the conveniences of the time. As time went on for Easy Eddie, his conscience started to work him. He knew that he was making money at a tremendous cost to others, but he was looking the other way because life was so good. He was living the high life. Easy Eddie had a son, and as his son matured and grew older, he really started to become concerned. What could he possibly pass on to his son that was worth anything? You see, the family name wasn't worth much because of his association with Al Capone. And he certainly couldn't pass on the family business, the law practice. They only had one client. So he thought long and hard, did a lot of internal searching, and he knew that he would have to do the right thing to set a good example for his son. So he turned evidence on Al Capone. In fact, his evidence was instrumental in the conviction that put Al Capone behind bars for tax evasion. Within a year of his testifying, he left his practice one night in his new Lincoln, driving down a street in Chicago, and a car pulled up next to him. The windows rolled down, and several shotguns came out the side window and just riddled his car with shotgun blast. The year was 1939. In 1941, the U.S. was completely involved in World War II. In the Pacific Theater, the USS Lexington and its support fleet were stationed. A young naval aviator, Butch, joined the Lexington, and they would go out on missions every day. On this one day, when they left the Lexington, Butch got up to altitude and into formation with the other planes, and he looked down and he noticed that the flight crew at the Lexington had forgotten to top off his fuel tank. His heart sank. He knew he wouldn't have enough fuel to make the run. In fact, on the way back, he would probably have to ditch in the shark-infested Pacific Ocean. So he radioed his flight commander, and the flight commander instructed him to fall out of formation and head back to the Lexington. Frustrated, he fell out of formation, and on his way back to the Lexington, he could see over on the close horizon a squadron of planes approaching. It was the enemy. They were going to do a surprise attack on the Lexington and the support fleet. So he thought quickly. He climbed up in altitude, positioned his plane into the sun so the enemy couldn't see him. And as they passed below him, he dove down on the unsuspecting enemy with his .50 calibers blazing. He wove in and out of the squadron, pulling the triggers constantly. When he depleted his ammunition, that wasn't enough. He went back into the squadron using his wingtips to clip their tails and their wings, trying to render the enemy planes useless and damaged. Finally, the enemy turned tail and retreated. Butch limped his plane into the Lexington, and after he landed, he told his story. It turns out his story was verified because he had cameras mounted in his wings, and every time he pulled the trigger, the cameras would click on. He had shot down 5 enemy aircraft. The Navy rewarded him. He became the first Naval Ace of World War II, and he received the Navy's Medal of Honor. Within a year, Butch would be killed in action. But the people from his hometown were unwilling to let him be forgotten. So, OHare International Airport in Chicago is named after Butch OHare. And I encourage you, the next time you travel through Chicago's OHare, that between Terminal 1 and 2, there is a memorial dedicated to Butch OHare. Stop and read it. You know, both of these men in these seemingly unrelated stories made incredibly difficult decisions that had a far-reaching impact on a lot of people. And at what price did they pay? They paid the ultimate price. But here's one more link. You see, Easy Eddie is Butch OHare's dad. So here's what I encourage you to do. Make the hard decisions. Make the honest decisions for yourself. Because as a result, you never know how far-reaching those decisions can be. And if you don't believe me, you don't have to look any farther than the good folks of the city of Chicago and Easy Eddie's decision, or the crew of the USS Lexington that was saved on what it could have been that faithful day. Hey, thanks for watching. You know, I'm the only one standing up here. I'm waiting for you to submit your stories. Everybody's got a story that they can share that somebody else may get some benefit out. So don't be bashful. Send your stories in. Just make sure that they're 7 to 10 minutes and they have a positive outcome. Thanks again for watching.